Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Nelson, and I serve as the Director of Alumni Engagement here at Coppin State University. And on behalf of the African American History Month Committee, I would like to welcome you to our event this afternoon. We are really excited about it. We just thank you for joining us. We encourage you to participate in some of the other planned activities that we have ongoing this month in observance of Black History Month as we reflect on the accomplishments, history, and culture of African Americans. This year's celebration revolves around the theme We Still Have Joy in conjunction with the Association for the Study of African American Life and History's theme of Black Resistance. For more information about our planned activities, please visit coppin.edu/Black History Month. So, I will not stand in the way of the program. I am super excited about everything that we'll learn this afternoon about our panel, our alumni, and all of their success in real estate. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Mike Bailey, class of 2009, who will serve as our moderator for this session. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you so much. I am truly, truly excited to be here today. I'm sure each and every one of you are as well. If you just had the opportunity to tour the campus since graduation, man, the campus is flourishing and changing. It is so beautiful to come back to your alma mater and see progress. So I couldn't be more happy. Um, what other way to start off Black History Month than to highlight the achievements of alumni? We have a wonderful group of panelists here today, and I hope that as we engage them and get to know them, that you love and appreciate their efforts just as much as we do here at the great Coppin State University. So without further ado, I'm going to allow each of the panelists to introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they do in the industry of real estate on a day-to-day basis. I will start with Charlie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie Jones, class of 2006. I am a real estate developer, commercial developer, also a licensed appraiser on a property management company, Able Capital, and a nonprofit organization, Urban Equity. Split time between Durham, North Carolina, and Baltimore City.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Marcia Cephus, class of 2005. Also former Coppin State employee. I worked here for 9 years. The last 5 or 6 was in the alumni office. I'm a realtor rather. I help first-time home buyers, second-time home buyers. I also do a lot of listings. I get my greatest joy out of helping first-time home buyers because it's remarkable to watch them go through that process. And I also enjoy helping international buyers because a lot of them never believed they would ever own land in the United States of America.
I'm Dora Bryant, and you can look on the brochure to see my class. It's been a long time. So I'm not going to announce it. Okay, I'm currently a commercial lender, but I've been in all facets of real estate. I've started off selling properties, working with the builder, having a modification company when 08 crashed, did that. Went into just high sales with a private company for a while, but I've been doing my own commercial lending for about 5 years now, and I'm getting into developing now. So I do a little bit of all of it.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Enrico McCleary. I'm an attorney. I've had my own general practice law firm this is my 11th year. I am a graduate of Coppin State University. I graduated class of 2008. Day to day, I work with different individuals who are involved in like real estate litigation. And then also, I do help a lot of clients with estate planning and wealth building. And a lot of times that includes acquiring real estate or retitling real estate. We do everything from create simple estate plans, you can devise a house through a will, or we can do something more complex. We do trust. We do trust as well. So, you know, I spend a lot of time advising people on these type of issues. So I look forward to speaking with the rest of the panel today.
Awesome, awesome. So if you didn't already catch on, we have a vast wealth of knowledge here at the panel. And I know that it can be difficult when you have real estate questions or you are embarking on the journey of acquiring or attaining real estate. I wanted to make sure that not only the university, but the community at large can put their eyes on individuals that can support them in their goals, right? So if you're looking for those people, those professionals that can support you in that, they're right here at home. The event is titled 40 Acres and a Mule, a celebration of African American success in real estate. And I think before we dig really deep into the conversation, I think it's important for us to just take a step back and look a little bit of the history of where the 40 Acres and a Mule came from. "40 Acres and a Mule," at least the 40 acres part, was introduced through Special Field Orders number 15 on January 16th, 1865. It illustrates how some 400,000 acres of land that stretched from Charleston, South Carolina, to the country bordering St. Johns River, Florida, was to be divided. Unfortunately, that promise was not kept. The land that represented a new start and opportunity for freed slaves was gone. Land that is actually worth billions of dollars to date. That may be an understatement. Since then, it has been an uphill battle for African Americans to acquire and retain real estate. With statistics of African American home ownership hovering around 43%, my question to the panelists would be, what are some traditional and or some non-traditional ways that you've acquired real estate yourself or have helped some of your clients?
Some non-traditional ways would be through owner financing and structuring a deal where the owner takes the note, and you can create some creative financing that way based on the interest rate. It decreases the amount of money that you need to come to the table with.
Okay, so when you say seller financing, for those of us who may not be familiar with the term, can you break that down a little bit more of, you know, what that looks like?
Yes. So say an owner owns a home free and clear, and they own it. It's worth 200,000, right? And they want to sell it for 200,000. Seller financing, instead of going to a bank, they would carry the note. They would essentially be the mortgage. The bank wouldn't get involved. You wouldn't have to go through a bunch of the extra closing costs, the broker fees that you would need to if you went through a traditional realtor. With the owner financing, you can create any terms that you want. You can have a balloon note, whereas you pay majority of it off on the back end, which will allow you to create value into the property by rehabbing the property, and then getting the payoff from the bank on the refinance. Or you can front load it and then have less payments throughout the project, so where you can maneuver a lot better through your construction periods. So you can dictate, the bank is going to tell you, hey, here are my terms, take it or leave it. But in a seller financing situation, you guys can come to the table and say, hey, how can I make it work for you? How can you make it work for me?
Wow. So if I'm hearing you correctly, two individuals, one an owner of property that happens to own it free and clear, and a purchaser can actually do business together without the bank.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Marcia?
Yes. So that non-traditional financing, as well as like rent to own, as a real estate agent, I'm not necessarily a fan of any type of agreement where you are paying for a home, but the deed is in somebody else's name. Because if anything goes wrong, you miss payments, you don't live up to whatever was agreed upon, or you made extra payments to purchase the property and something went wrong, it is not your house. And I don't care how much money you put into it, it is not your house. So there are non-traditional ways to get property. I just don't promote non-traditional ways when I'm dealing with my clients.
Like to piggyback off of that. Most of the properties that I do get is owner financing. And if you look at the better half of it, is most of those people are in the process of losing their homes. So we come in, we catch them up on their payment, we do some repair to the work, to the house if it needs it. We put it on the market, and then we make the deal between the person who owns it and us at the end. So everybody wins. So it's not always a bad situation when you do owner financing. I mean, I think it's bad things in anything that you do in real estate. Well, it depends. It depends on how severe the case is. Yeah.
So Dora, 1 second, because Marcia, you asked a question. You asked, how long are the terms?
Yes, how long would that, like what your process, how long does one of your processes?
It depends on how severe. Now, we have one now that we had for a while, but then we had to get the pay. It was $30,000 behind. So you want to regain your money back. So it's probably going to be a process of maybe 4 years before we sell it, because we had to put so much into it. But again, that person has gone on. There's no foreclosure on her credit, and she's bought another house since then. So it could be a good thing too.
And yours is called owner finance?
We call it contract for deed.
Okay.
And it's the same concept, but just a different names. Okay. Yeah.
And I want to be clear on the owner financing part. The property doesn't always have to be owned free and clear.
Right.
The owner can offset, or they can push their profit essentially on the back end. So if you own a house as the seller and you want to sell it for 200,000, right? And you only owe 100,000, right? So you're going to clear 100,000 on that sale. But let's say on an owner financing situation, I only have a certain amount of money to come to the table. If I can strike a deal with the owner, with the seller on an owner financing deal, that decreases my amount of money that I need to come to the table, where I may only need to come to the table with 3% versus a bank would require me to come with 20%. So I can do a lot more. I can purchase a lot more real estate with less amount of money down on each individual real estate, because otherwise, if I go to a bank, I'm looking at 20% down.
All right, now, Charlie, hold on. Wait a second, man. Hold on. I didn't come to the great Coppin State and study math. All right. So I'm gonna need you to slow down just a little bit. All right. You're going into some specific terms here, some structuring. Hold on. I need a piece of paper, a highlighter, a pencil, some other things, so. But, you definitely bring up a good point that it doesn't have to be free and clear. Now, we have the attorney in the house, right? And I hear him listening. Are there some, because rent to own has become more of like an advertisement, like a slogan. What are some immediate risks that you may see with either owner financing or rent to own that you may be want the consumer or owner to be cautious of? And for our digital listeners, we just want to make sure we're bringing the mics just a little bit closer so that way they can hear us.
Well, what I'll say is this. Typically, when I run into one of these unconventional real estate deals, it's because something has gone wrong and someone's coming to me because they either want to sue for specific performance or they want to sue for damages. I'll kind of piggyback off of what Miss Marcia said, excuse me. I would, if you ever do get involved in a deal like that, please do not try to write the contract yourself. A lot of realtors believe that they're attorneys, but they're not attorneys, especially when they get into these alternatively structured deals. It's very important that you have that transaction reviewed by a real estate attorney. So, you know, like I said, I don't want to discourage anyone from acquiring property. So, you know, the name of the game is to acquire property. And for some of our people, obviously, because of where we're coming from socially and economically, sometimes we do have to employ an alternative strategy like rent to own. But I will say, don't cut corners. You know, make sure that you dot every I, cross every T, that you have your documents reviewed by professionals that know what they're doing. You know, I have 5 big litigation cases going on right now where, you know, people are trying to do these transactions by themselves at the kitchen table with their pastor. And, you know, I would really advise you against that. And just to kind of, I guess, move the conversation along, really the only way that I help folks acquire property in an alternative way is, like I said before, I do a lot of estate planning and estate administration. So in our community, a lot of times, the person that owns the home that the whole family lives in is grandma or grandpa, and you know, grandpa doesn't have a will. So grandpa passes away, and everybody starts to fight over grandpa's stuff. If you have the foresight to try to come to help grandpa develop an estate plan prior to him losing his capacity, then a lot of times on a cheap and alternative way that I can make sure that what grandpa wants to happen to the property happens is I'll redeed the property. And that can get kind of complicated. There's a lot of different options when it comes to that. But what I will say is if you don't have the money to invest in like a full all-out estate plan, one option that the family has is to add family members to the deed while the homeowner is still alive. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that, other than, you know, please, regardless of what real estate transaction you're doing, make sure that you have professionals that are experienced and know what they're doing, because when things go wrong, it tends to cost someone a whole lot of money. And the litigation process is very expensive and it takes time.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing, the resounding sentiment is not to go it alone, right? Seek consultation. There are professionals that are able to support you in whatever the goals are that you have for you and your family, and you don't have to wing it, right? I often say a motto to myself: if you want to take the long way, take a shortcut. Right? Now, I wanted to ask a question, and I know, Charlie, we've had this conversation a few times, especially at the infant stages of this panel, right? Because we're getting into the discussion of real estate. We've heard 40 acres and a mule. We may have some sense of its importance. As real estate professionals acting in the profession, you all have a deep passion for it and understand it at another level than the layman. And you asked me a simple question, Charlie, but it was very profound. You said the so what, right? We put on events like this, everyone looks good, they show up, we talk about real estate, but what's the point, right? We hope and pray that our passion permeates through the audience. But why is it so important for African Americans to have ownership in land and property? Why is it so important for us?
I believe it's important because it spans the entire family, right? The generations that come after us, and what the money can do, what the wealth can do, the education, higher education, better opportunities, more access in certain communities, and real estate gives you that best opportunity outside of, you know, winning the lottery, right? Playing the long game in real estate, you're not going to find the wealth creation in just about any other vehicle.
Dora, you're on the lending side. You're at the beginning of the process of wealth building.
Yes.
What's your take on it?
Biggest pet peeve I have on the lending side of people of color, us, the way we handle things. Credit. Credit is credit. We really need, and then in our families, we don't teach credit. We don't teach it. We rather partner with somebody that has credit and then end up losing half of what we built. Good story. I have a client right now. He moves dirt. That's what he does for a living. His checks come in. He's making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, doing very well. Got a contract for doing more business. Want to buy equipment. His credit is 540. So all of this money that's coming through, it never dawned on him, I need to fix my credit. So he comes up with this idea. He says, Dora, I can add my friend to my business. He has 700 scores. Now the friend works at a car wash. So you getting this friend with the 750 credit score to come and partner with you on your business. The friend never saw all of this money in his life, to partner with you so you could make a deal go through. So it really frustrates me. And I said to him, so you're going to give somebody who never seen this type of money half of your business because you don't want to fix your credit. One thing we don't understand, sometimes our credit can be fixed in 30 days.
That's a word.
Or less.
So that goes back into what we talked about before, is having the consultation
Yes.
with the professionals.
Yes.
Because we need support.
Yeah, and we need to deal with that. That saves you millions over the course of your life, having good credit.
Charlie, you had a comment.
Yeah, so I want everyone to understand a different way to look at credit, right? So for me as an investor, a credit score is nothing more than a number written in crayon framed on a wall, right? Because the difference between good credit and bad credit, it can be the same exact number, but it actually is different. If I have a 550 credit score and it's because I have missed payments for my Macy's card or my Target card, that's different than if I have a 550 credit score because of my credit utilization, because I have 5 houses doing rehab. It matters what is on your credit score. If you don't use your credit, you're not going to buy any real estate. You have to use your credit. You have to learn how to leverage your credit. Credit is nothing more than like a hammer, right? Inherently, the hammer is dangerous if you don't know how to use it. You can hurt yourself, but you can also build a house with it. You can build beautiful things with it. Same thing with credit. If you don't know how to use your credit, then yeah, you can hurt yourself. You can damage yourself. But you have to know how to leverage it and use it. My credit score ebbs and flows. I'll see a 750 credit score one day and it will tank to 550 the next because of what I'm doing with my credit. I'm rehabbing houses on credit. I'm leveraging my credit to do other things.
So it's a tool.
It's a tool.
And Dora, you made a term about the client that you were working with. You said moving dirt. What does it mean when you say the client is moving dirt?
Well, part of his business is that he goes in before construction and he moves the dirt for them. That's what he does for his business. And you can do that, but you can't do much of it when you only have one machine. So he's trying to grow. He wants to buy another one. So, well, I'm sorry, what was that? Okay. I got it. But I just try to, piggyback. Another thing about the credit utilization, you're right. When you maxing out your cards, it's going to go down. That's the easy fix. Pay the cards off, right? But if you're not making that payment to Macy's and you are 30-day late, you can't fix that overnight.
You're absolutely right. And Marcia, you work with quite a few first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
We're on the C word, the credit word. I know this comes up in some of your initial conversations. Tell us some do's and don'ts when you're looking to acquire your first home.
First of all, don't take on too much debt than you can pay, because the more you owe out, the less house you can purchase. A lender can't max out your income. So just because you have $1,500 left a month after, what you bring home or whatever you make, they can't put you in a mortgage for $1,500 because you can't be at 100% debt, basically. So if it's 50% or 43%, whatever it is, the lender will know how much percent debt you can be. You may have $2,000 left a month that you believe can go to a mortgage, but the lender might only say 700 can go because there's guidelines to how much debt you can have. I did want to go back though to the whole most important thing with having real estate, which Charlie had talked about, was so if you think of a landlord, a private landlord who owns 10 properties and he's renting them out and he's making this however much money every month on renting out these 10 properties, that those 10 tenants are going to buy for him so he can leave those 10 properties to his children. So when you pay somebody's rent, you are buying their house. You might not be buying your house, but you're buying their house. So just think about that. You don't want to rent forever. Some people say, I don't want to buy. Everybody doesn't have to buy. Well, you're buying somebody's house. Might not be yours.
So we're making some great points here. So we're talking about moving dirt. We're talking about credit. Make no mistake, getting sued affects your credit. Can you agree?
It does. So, I did want to start, I guess, with the initial question that Mr. Bailey posed. What's the importance of owning real estate? It's so important. It's more important than having a good job. It's so very important. One of the things that is very apparent right now is the way that the inflation is just going rampant in this country, right? I used to buy 36 eggs at Costco. Like 18 months ago, I was buying 36 eggs at Costco for $7. And then last weekend, I went to the same Costco 18 months later, and 36 eggs were $16, right? So that's inflation. Your wages are not going to move at the speed of inflation, right? So you can come out of college, get a great job, and you're like, dang, life is great. But what you have to understand is that every day the dollar is losing value. But every day, because the dollar is losing value, real estate is gaining value. So the truth is that real estate is the only way to protect yourself from inflation, because every dollar you lose in your salary, you gain in equity. So you've lost nothing. I am doing some things in the community, and one of the big things is rent stabilization. Rent stabilization, rent stabilization, rent stabilization. Everybody I talk to, it's on their mind. It's what keeps them up at night. People, I live in the DMV. I live right outside of Washington, D.C. in Laurel in Prince George's County. And people have seen their rent double in the last 24 months. The only way to protect yourself from a slumlord or from these predatory landlords is to own where you live. If not, you're going to be going to work to pay your rent and going to work to pay your rent. And unfortunately, in that model, that money that you're putting into renting where you live, you're never going to see that money again. It's like going to buy a burger at McDonald's. Yes, you ate, but after you consume that burger, it's gone. And now you've got to figure out what you're going to do to get another burger. But every dollar that I put into a mortgage, I know I'm going to see that money again. So the importance of owning real estate is that it's the only way to establish yourself economically. Strong employment is just that. It's employment. It could be given one day, you could go into work and your boss could say, you know what? It's not working out. Here's your severance package. And now you're right back at square one. I'm an attorney, so I've been an attorney for 11 years. I know folks that when we got out of law school, they got great jobs downtown. They were making $300,000 a year. They got a big condo downtown where they were renting this condo for $35,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. They're living the life. They're driving the foreign car. 10 years later, they're like, dang, I'm still doing the stuff I was doing 10 years ago. I want more. They go in the office, they tell the partners at the office, I want to be a partner. Why am I not becoming a partner? Everybody else is becoming a partner and I'm not. Well, that's one of the things about being an African-American lawyer. We can have a whole nother panel about that. But once you start making that noise, you want to be a partner, next thing you know, you get your severance package and you're not at the firm anymore. And it's shocking when people realize that they've made millions of dollars, but they didn't put their money into anything, but they will ever see the money again. So real estate has to be an important piece of anybody's financial strategy, whether it's a small piece of real estate or a large piece of real estate. I would say it really doesn't matter.
Listen, I'm hoping that this is seeping in. I hope that the passion that you can see from each of these professions or professionals is touching you in some way. Enrico, while I have you, for some of us, the road to acquiring real estate can be a difficult one. And for others, there are windfall opportunities where they have acquired real estate and lost it. I'm sure all of us have seen empires or real estate fortunes gained and lost like that, right? So what are some proactive measures that someone who's looking to leave the empire or the individual that may be soon receiving it at the loss of a loved one should do to make sure that they can retain those assets?
Okay, so one of the biggest tragedies that I see almost every single day is, family member passes and the family member has 3 children and those 3 children have 3 children apiece. And we'll say that they own a 4,000 square foot colonial on Georgia Avenue in Northwest DC. And these people called me and they cannot wait to get that house listed and sold so that they can split up the money. And it is the saddest thing. I can't put words to how it troubles me. Because if you know anything about real estate in DC, yes, in the condition that grandma has the house in, she hasn't made any improvements to the house since maybe the 80s or the early 90s, and the house is kind of in disrepair. And they say, oh, we don't want to spend any money fixing it. We just want to get our money quick and leave. And I promise you, there are people that are just waiting in the wind, hoping and praying that you make that decision. Because the truth is that at least one family member should have the wherewithal to refinance that house and buy the other family members out. But you just see it over and over and over. People just want to take the money and run. But in DC, houses go up 20%, every 18 months? So if you have a house that you could sell as is for $1 million in 18 months, even if you don't do anything, it's going to be worth $1.2 million. And 18 months after that, it's going to be worth, $1.5 million. Even if you don't do anything to the property. So you have these predatory folks that are buying these houses from these people that don't really have the sophistication that the generation before them had. So grandma was sophisticated. She had the sophistication and the wherewithal to buy the house. But the children, they're not as sophisticated. All they know is that they've got all these bills and they've got all these kids and they need money now. You hear the commercials. You need money now, we'll fix it. You know what I mean? But I tell everybody, and I try to convince people, at least one family member, to hold on to the house, refinance the house, and buy the other family members out. Because even if you just hold it for another 6 months, the likelihood is that a bigger developer is going to come trying to buy it from you in order to make a big development. And you might double on the amount that you were going to sell the house for initially. Going to what Mr. Bailey had kind of posed to me. So it's 2 types. Some people pass with estate plan, some people don't. If you pass with an estate plan, that's great. You've done great. You planned everything out. There's not much for your family to fight over. Just have to go through the process. If you don't have an estate plan and you die what's called intestate, then that means that the statutes and the laws of the state of Maryland are going to govern what happens to your stuff, right? That means that if you're married, your wife is entitled to the first half, and your children will divide the other half of the shares. When someone passes away, the most important thing is that everybody get on the same page. I have a couple of estate cases right now where, you know, I'm having these come to Jesus conversations with my client because they want to fight about every little detail of the estate and about, you know, I knew what my mother wanted and they don't know what my mother wanted. And I keep trying to communicate to this person that, hey, you know, we can, you know, I'm a fighter. You know, if you want to go 12 rounds, I'll go 12 rounds, right? But the truth is that if I go 12 rounds and the other lawyer goes 12 rounds and the appointed lawyer goes 12 rounds, it's not going to be an estate for you and your family anymore.
Woo, money come and gone.
You know what I mean? And I'm talking to people in our community about these issues. People that don't have much, they love to fight. And it's like, no. Some fights aren't worth fighting. And you have to learn to do that cost benefit analysis and say to myself, okay, if I fight, it's going to cost me $75,000. If I just agree, it might cost me $10,000 or $15,000. In that situation, you always make the deal. So I tell everyone, and I try to express to everyone, please, please, please make an estate plan. Make an estate plan, make an estate plan, make an estate plan. Have that power of attorney done for when you become ill. You know, get that will done that says what you want to happen to your house, what you want to happen to your diamond ring, what you want to happen to that Louis purse in your closet. Because, you know, your family will fight over your stuff. It's unfortunate, but it's just the reality of life. And last but not least, one of the biggest barriers I see to people buying and acquiring real estate is that culturally, socially, economically, we are too into consuming goods. I see people go out to eat every day. I see people with a new designer outfit on every time I see them. I see people with new cars every 2 years, every year, and they don't own a home. And I'm like, I had this conversation with them every time I see him. I say, you know, I like that Gucci purse, but man, you know, let me know when you're ready to get focused and buy a house. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, Mike, I think one of the biggest barriers to our acquiring real estate is our consumer culture. We have like a consumer culture where we consume and it's never enough. And if we would just take a moment and sit back and just let our finances settle, we would be in much better position, both credit and equity-wise, to purchase real estate.
And you bring up some good points, and I want to hear from Marcia and Dora on this because you're working with clients and financing.
Right.
Dora, if you bring the mic a little
One
closer.
thing I want to piggyback off what he said is consumer goods. You mean things that depreciate. It has no value to it whatever. You go buy a car, you drive it off the lot, it's $15,000 less than when it was sitting on the lot. So I understand that. So yeah, I want to talk about when you go out there and you when you buy a house, the easier way to consume these homes is whenever you buy your first one, it's going to build equity. Cash out some of the money and buy your second one, but hold your first one. Do it again.
Leverage.
That's right. Leverage yourself. That's the easiest way, in my opinion, to do it with not such a big headache. You know, cash out on this one. You know, if you just get out of college, don't rent, buy a house. Start there. The younger, the better. I have a first cousin that did that. Their last house, they paid not a dime for it. So I'm just giving you guys some ideas. I mean, it doesn't have to be this big overbearing thing. I know people that buy cars, they know more about cars than they do a home, you know, and that car is not going to get you a dime back.
So I want to dig a little deeper on what we talked about with regard to the trusts and estates.
Mhm.
It's going to start with us, right? So, and what I mean by us is the adults, and then you have the children, right? I personally don't subscribe to the whereas everyone leaves the property to the kids, right? You have to be real with yourself and understand who you're leaving the property with. You have to look at your kids' emotional maturity, look at their financial maturity, because you think you're doing something great for them and giving them a house when all you're doing is burdening them with bills and repairs, right? There's other ways to profit off of that house. Enrico had mentioned, not selling the house, but there are situations where selling the house actually makes sense. Sell the house, put it in a mutual fund. Mutual fund, historically, you're looking at 8 to 10%. In the scenario that Enrico gave, the house is worth $1 million. You're getting what, about 100,000, 800,000 a year? Over year, over year, over year. As opposed to just selling the house and then everyone squanders the money, but they no longer have to worry about the pipe being burst. They no longer have to worry about, tenants in there. Right? So look at your children. You leave the house to 6 kids, to 3 kids, then fighting ensues, right? Who gets to live in the house? Then the other 2 don't. They're upset because they don't get to live in the house, right? So there are scenarios where selling the house does make sense and putting it into a different investment, or buying a vacation home. And each of the children are able to stay in the house a week out of every quarter, and then rent the vacation home out, and then you have income for your family. Right? So I don't believe in always just leaving the property to the kids. Look at your kids, look who you're actually leaving the property to.
That's important, right? So we're not only assessing the plan, right? Putting the plan in place, we're also assessing the heirs.
Yeah.
Marcia?
Yeah.
I feel like when we're having these conversations, when I look around, I feel like I'm got some gray in my beard now. I feel like we get it, right? At least a little bit. But sometimes I feel like it goes over the heads of our youth, right? They feel like this is something that I'll do someday, one day. I mean, we're at the epicenter of information and knowledge. Is there an appropriate age to introduce our youth to real estate?
Yes. So a lot of times for those of us who don't get it, because I didn't always get it, because my mother didn't get it until she did, which was, I probably was like 18 when she purchased her first home. So buying a house wasn't necessarily in the front of my mind at any point. Basically just graduating from high school was, because that's what she said, you got to graduate from high school. So some of the youth that don't see it probably don't understand home ownership, but I think if I personally had to, just throw out an age that they should start learning about it, I would say middle school. By the time they get to college, they should have learned enough stuff throughout middle and high school that they kind of have a sense of, like you said, no matter, Enrico said, no matter how big or small the purchase is, by the time you get to college, you might have enough just from refunds to buy something. I mean, it could be a shell, but you hold on to it and you wait for things to change in certain communities, and now you have a piece of property. So I really think the younger they are, I say middle school, they should start hearing about the importance of owning real estate and the wealth that's in it for their future, I think.
The audience, I want to share a timeline with you, and thank you so much for that. I want to share a timeline with you so you can kind of visualize how far we've come. 1863 was the Emancipation Proclamation. That's only 160 years ago. 1865, Special Field Orders number 15, which discloses the 40 acres and a mule, and the 13th Amendment was only 158 years ago. 1868, the 14th Amendment, African Americans become citizens. It's only 155 years. 1870, the 15th Amendment, we get the right to vote. It's 153 years ago. Let's fast forward. 1964, Ben Slayton becomes the first African American realtor. It's only 59 years ago. 1968, Fair Housing Act laws outlaw discrimination in the sale, lease, or rental of housing due to race, color, religion, or national origin. That's only 55 years ago. Fast forward again. June 2022, the Department of Justice sues one of the largest social media platforms for violating the Fair Housing Act laws set in 1968. That was 8 months ago. So I don't read this timeline to bring down the mood in the room. Most of us are aware of the injustices against African Americans and the hindrances to acquiring real estate. I mention it to those that may say something insensitive, that will say something to the effect of, why don't African Americans just pull themselves up by their bootstraps? Take advantage of what's all around them. So what I'd say to the person that thinks of saying something to that effect, to slow down, take a pause, and know that, hey, you know, this case came out in June of 2022. People may have felt something, and sometimes, or many times, when African Americans express themselves, they are conspiracy theorists. They're not crazy. It is relevant and real. And even if they may not have the ability to articulate it, pause and consider that maybe something is wrong and that you can support in the effort to make it right. I want to go over a quick stat here and then open up the floor to questions, because we're in the middle of West Baltimore, 21216. The average home sale in the neighborhood is in the low 100s, right? I also want to read to you a stat about the change in the demographics since 1990 to 2020 in the 21216 zip code. African American population in 21216 decreased from 99% to 78%. Where did it go? Asian population has increased from 0% to 8%. White population has increased from 1% to 8%. Hispanic population has increased from 0% to 2%. So when you're looking for opportunity, it's right around you, right? What I'm going to ask the panelists, when you hear these stats of the population change and the average sale price right around the university, what do you hear?
Opportunity.
Expound upon that, please.
From an investor standpoint, the opportunity, the property values are going to start going up. You can see all around the development that's happening, the new buildings, just further down North Ave, those new apartment complexes. Coppin State's driving a lot of the development. I own a house across the street from Coppin. Bought it for $30,000.
Say what? Say it again.
I bought it for $30,000. Just 30, 45 days ago, a house sold literally next door for $200,000. So the values are going up. So that's what I hear from an investment standpoint is opportunity.
Opportunity, lots of it, right? Any questions from our digital viewers or the audience that you'd like to ask the panelists here today? Please, the mic.
Hello, my name is Janiyah Jennings. I just graduated in December 22. Thank you. It was a long 4 years, I'm not gonna lie. Socially, I wanted to graduate with my class, but the 2 years I was in, I got pregnant, and now I'm a single mom. So I'm looking for some equity. I'm looking for something to change, but I don't know where to start. I'm gonna run. My major was business management because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I can do anything with the business degree. But yeah, I'm stuck and I don't know what's next. But I know I want to start in real estate because I have a daughter, so everything I'm doing now is for my young one. What should I do? I have a kid, so I try to I try to manage my time wisely and still be 23 or live my youth, but it's hard.
I like to help you with that question. Sometimes you can do everything right. I went to school, I got married, I had children after I got married, but I still ended up raising them by myself. So don't use having the baby as an excuse. Do what you can when she sleeps. Those times that you don't have her, or him, I'm sorry, you just say it's a girl?
Yeah, it's a girl.
Okay, yeah. Just do what you can during those times. And I'm telling you, if you believe it, you will achieve it. Get around people who are smarter than you. Once you get smarter than them, get out of that room, go to another one. Okay? So don't stay in the same room. Don't stay in the same room. Keep moving forward. The only way that you won't make it is if you quit. Okay? I hope that helps you because I'm telling you that from experience. Even doing everything what society would say is the right thing, get married and all that. You can still end up raising your baby by yourself. But that's not an excuse for you not to have and do what you want to do in this life.
Thank you.
Oh, what do you like to do? Because I'm going to be honest with you. Real estate is hard work. And it's not like you can't do it because we all did it in whatever way we did. So you can do it, but it is not easy. I don't care how much I laugh and smile up here. It is hard. But when you got your degree, was it something that you kind of thought you wanted to do with it?
Well, growing up, I was kind of a jock, just sports in school. When I got into college, I met a significant other and I was playing a housewife.
Okay.
But I've always was into interior design, always was into housing because my parents was given a house. So now that I thought about owning a house, and at this time with inflation, I'd rather just stay and just build up my credit and set myself ready for it. But
Staging.
yes.
Staging is very important. You said interior designs. I'm just, thinking about what you said, but that's a big business in real estate.
But also sales. When I used to
There you go.
work at Last Stop at the mall, Mondawmin, when I was in college, I was a top seller. I love to sell. I think I can rip anything off somebody.
There you go.
But that's what kind of gave me a drive, and so I wanted to put that into something that actually would give back and actually make a profit off of. So that's why I'm here, actually.
Well, I think you're taking the first step.
Yeah.
Having the courage to ask.
So research a little bit more about real estate as a whole and the many, many ways that you can make money on real estate. And start small, bringing your money up to where you can own a house, right? Have you ever heard of Airbnb arbitrage?
Yes.
right? So you don't own the house, you rent the house, and then you put it on Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's very low income to start up. You can co-host for somebody, right? You can, like she was saying, you can get with a landlord and help, or realtors and help stage in properties, right? Just put yourself, insert yourself into the community, and then you'll start to slowly find your niche and what you like about real estate and earn a couple dollars along the way. Then once you actually figured out your niche in real estate and what you want to do, then you can strike when that iron's hot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Okay, there are 3 questions in the chat. The first is from Ms. Johnson. She says, not enough people renting properties are in the homes they choose to secure. What suggestions are there for people renting due to location, but still not eligible for their dream home?
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. She says, not enough people renting properties are in the homes they choose to secure. What suggestions are there for people renting due to locations, but are still not eligible for their dream home?
That's not on the market.
So a couple of things. Of course, income matters. So from the lending side, you have to make a certain amount to, buy a certain amount. But saving is a good idea. Working a part-time job, if you know that the house, if you're looking on those different apps and you know that the houses that catch your eye are all $250,000 or more, then figure out how to get your income to match that property. But saving so that you have money for your down payment, working 2 jobs if you have to get the house that you want. But as high as rents are, people really can afford to live where they can buy, buy what they want to buy just based on what they pay in rent. But, to get pre-approved for a mortgage or whatever, you do need to have the right income.
There's a lot of programs in Maryland too. I'm not a lender here, but I hear about it all the time, where you don't really have to have the money down. There's a lot of grant programs that you can get to help with the houses too. And again, when you said the dream home, sometimes you have to go through some homes to get to that dream home.
That is true. That is true.
Profound.
Thank you. There's 2 additional questions, and I know we are right about 2 minutes before the end of our program. So Ms. Fisher says, would it be a good process to place the house in a trust and leave it to a beneficiary?
30 seconds.
It depends. I would have to know a lot more about your individual situation, but as a general measure, a trust is a very ironclad way to protect property, not only in the event that you pass away, but most people go through some period of disability prior to becoming deceased. And if you know about Medicare liens, if you become disabled and you need care, typically your health insurance isn't going to cover all of your needs. You're going to have a Medicare supplement. And once you cross a certain threshold, Medicare will have a lien on your property if you haven't had the wherewithal to place your property into trust at least 5 years before that time comes. So to answer the question, trusts are generally a good way to protect real estate, but that is a complicated question. And whoever makes the trust for you would have to know a lot more about your personal situation before they could advise you.
Thank you. And the last question comes from one of our students, Mr. Myrick asks, what's happening in the North Avenue Arts District and how can we benefit from the changes?
I think to answer that question is to get involved, right? There's a lot of information through the North Avenue development that you can be a part of. Sometimes it's just as simple as reaching out to your constituents and just finding out what's available and partnering with real estate professionals that are in those spaces. So that way you can begin collecting information before you act.
And if you can get into that area, I highly suggest it. A lot of the development going over there is being driven by the Penn Station development.
Is it time for a quick question? Okay,
Sure, you'll be the
great,
last
great.
question for the day.
Thank you. Hi, I am Keisha Fields Powell, and I am in the real estate industry. I work in title with Integrity Title. What can we do? What I was so impressed with is the fact that you hosted this in this community, and after hearing the stats, you stated, I hear development or I hear investment opportunities, but at $100,000, I hear there's a first-time homebuyer opportunity. There's a way that we can recapture our communities as well. How do we leave here with a footprint that says, what can we do to make sure that 21216 continues to grow, continues to develop, and we put back a sense of empowerment into this community? Thank you.
So I think it starts from the political level, right? To bring resources into the community to attract the homeowners to the zip code, as well as the pushing development in those particular areas from a statewide standpoint.
Thank you. And I think we can expand upon that in so many ways. And the great thing is that we're able to put our eyes on professionals right here. So I would encourage you to connect with them so that way the conversations can continue even after this discussion. In closing, I'd like us to thank our panelists for their time. They did an awesome job. And on behalf of the Office of African American History Committee and the Office of Alumni Engagement, as a token of our appreciation for you and everything that you're doing, we have a gift for you. And I also want to highlight that these young men and women, they stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, and yet they are making history as we speak. And let's be sure to give them their flowers and others like them before the history books write their names. Thank you so much. Now free to roam about the country. Taking the refreshments.